Focus. If there's one thing you can do in your business, focus. And if you forget what focus means, I've made an acronym for you. Focus means fix one clear, urgent struggle.
That's really good. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. My name is Tiffany Alexander, and you are with us on Unveiling Journeys. As always, I have an amazing guest for you today. I love the power of networking. That's how we met, high-level mastermind. We decided to say, hey, we need to get to know each other more. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, you need to know people I know, and I need to know people you know. And it just grew from there. He has an amazing product. He's an amazing human, amazing person. And I love his stuff so much that I promote him. I love him. And I want you guys to get to know him too today. So with that, please welcome Mr. Michael Buzinski, who we call Buzz. Welcome to the show. Tell us about you.
Well, thanks for having me, Tiffany. You're another wonderful human being as well. So it's always fun to have a chat. And I mean, who doesn't like to talk about themselves, right? Anywho, the funny story, I've been on about 200 podcasts in the last couple of years. And when I first started, I don't know how many times I had to tell my life story. It used to take me 5 minutes. And today we're going to get it. We're going to get the gist in about a minute here. So I'm a marketer, and I'm a happenstance marketer. Only by the virtue of that, when I was young, I wanted high-paying, non-food related jobs. And the only jobs you could get as a teenage kid that wasn't in the food industry were sales jobs, because it was all performance-based. And the better I got at sales, the more I got pulled into the marketing side of things. Because once you start managing in sales, you get to talk to the marketers. And I was like, that marketing thing's kind of fun. But I didn't realize it until about 2005 when I got out of the Air Force. I was in the Air Force for 10 years. And I started a recording studio that turned into a production studio that turned into a creative agency that I then closed, and now have my marketing firm. None of that means anything to anybody except the fact that I know how to pivot, and I've pivoted 4 times in 20 years.
Oh my goodness. And so your marketing firm right now is doing crazy stuff. One of the things you told me that really stood by me was like, you could come in at any level, meaning you want me to do it for you. You want to do it yourself. You wrote an incredible book. You lead a team of people. Like what you're doing right now is amazing, because you could almost help anybody.
Almost anybody. I mean, you either have to have time or money. If you don't have either of those, there's not much anybody can do for you.
I love that. Yeah, right? You got to figure out one. You got to sacrifice something here. This isn't just done for you for free.
Yeah, we have a done. Yeah, what you're talking about is our done for you, not our done for you, our choose your own adventure marketing firm. And so we focus our efforts on B2B marketing, B2B service-based businesses. And during COVID, I got paralyzed by all of the brick and mortars who were basically caught off guard. Their government told them that they were not good enough to be in business. And so therefore they were forced online. And that's what drove me to write my book on website marketing for service-based businesses, because everybody had to pivot overnight. Yeah. And from that, I was in the middle of my relaunch into the Buzzworthy marketing brand. And I was lucky. I only lost one client because of COVID. That was a daycare. Well, it was actually an early learning center, so it was a little bit more sophisticated than a daycare. But they were like at this precipice of owners retiring and stuff like that. So they kind of like said, well, we're just going to let the government do what the government's going to do. And so yeah. Anyway, long story short, this is the only client we lost. So that gave me time to write the book, The Rule of 26, which basically shows these entrepreneurs like how 3 KPIs, or key performance indicators, can double their revenue. And when you don't know anything about websites, and you got people yelling a bunch of numbers at you, and you need to focus on this and likes and shares and all these other things, conversion rates and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, actually you as the owner only need 3 numbers that are going to translate into cash, right? Because that's cash is king in small businesses.
That's what we're in business for.
Right, exactly. And so for over the last 4 years since COVID and launching the book, we've been able to, before COVID, we were very niched to 1 million plus businesses, and usually between $1 and $10 million B2B service-based businesses. Now we have these DIY and DWI, or done with you and do it yourself programs that anybody who's just getting started, who happens to have a little bit of cash in their pocket to speed things up, and the folks that are like, okay, word of mouth was great at the beginning, but we need a little bit more than that. Networking's taking too much time now. And all the things that sucker the time that we only have a finite amount of, right? We can start trading that time, that time for money, right? Or money for time, I should say. And then that just allows us to, I think that B2B businesses are the backbone of our economy. And we create more jobs than any other sector, new jobs in any other sector in the United States. And for me, as a B2B service provider, servicing other B2B service providers, every time I increase the revenue for my clients, that means that they were increasing the revenue for another business. So for every one job I create, I probably create 3 or 4 more jobs total, just through one client.
That's a great way to look at it. I never considered that.
And so I have this exponential impact on the economy around me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to change it from inside.
Like the ripple in the lake, Okay, this is a good summary. I know we had to do summary. Where did this all start? Like, where are you from? And did you go to school for this?
That's so funny. So I was born in England in an Air Force brat. I grew up on a farm in Northern California, California, where both my parents went to college. And my first taste of entrepreneurialism was picking up walnuts from my grandfather off of the ground of our ranch, and getting paid $1.25 for each gunny sack I filled up. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Probably 1,000 freaking nuts per sack or something. I don't even know how many, but it's a lot of nuts. I'll tell you that right now. And I would
you did that when you were younger. I can't imagine my back right now picking up 1,000.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. Yeah. There's all sorts of games we played with that, but I won't digress too far into that story. But I would make about $20 in a fall during this picking season. And that was just enough money to buy my dad, my mother, and my sister a Christmas present for Christmas. And that's what
sweet.
I spent probably $19 of every $20 I made on that. But
so you were like giving since the beginning versus going to spend it on yourself. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I wish I could tell you I remember why that's what happened, but probably. I mean, I've always been Enneagrams. Have you ever heard of these things?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Enneagrams. Yeah. So I'm a 3-wing 2.
I think I'm a 6.
I'm a driver with a giver wing.
That's fun.
So, and that lends to my love for teaching, sharing knowledge, introducing people. I love networking because I feel that that's like one of the best ways to help people grow is to introduce them to more people. More people, more power, right? Your network is your net worth.
Enneagram. Like, that sounds like mine, except it sounds like you're making me question my Enneagram because maybe that's my extra. Like, because you get a primary.
Yeah, that's your wing, extra, probably. Right? Yeah. Because like at first they were. Yeah. When you're taking that test, it's really weird because it's still subjective. They even tell you, it's like, don't take our word for it. You read through and you say who you think you are. And then so it's a negotiation. I don't know. It's really weird, but it works. Because when you say that, you're like, I'm a 3-wing 2. They're like, oh my God, I'm a 7. I'm like, okay, I got to go. Anyway, I don't even know what 7 is.
I was just like, you're the biggest extrovert, and you're loud about it. And I'm like, exactly. I'm in. But also I love people, so.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Right. So like I told you, I was really early in the sales marketing. And I also was a professional musician at the age of 13.
I forgot about this.
My junior high jazz band went pro. We recorded an album. We got swag. We went on tour down the coast of California. We played at Disneyland, Dixieland in front of everybody, blah, 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 blah. And that was like a short-lived year and a half of like, oh my God, yeah. And then everybody went to high school.
You're not going to blaze past without telling us what instrument.
Well, I was first chair trombone.
Yes.
And I was like all of like 5'2". I think the trombone was almost as tall as me, but I was really good at it for some reason. I picked it up late in grade school, like I think 5th grade, maybe even fourth grade. I didn't start playing until I was in 4th grade. But by 7th grade, when my parents had gotten a divorce, we moved down into the Bay Area, and I just kind of had a knack for it. So within the year, I went from 3rd chair to 1st chair within a year, and then that's the year that the conductor basically said, "Hey, all of you parents, I want to take these kids into the recording studio and I want to take them on tour and I want to do all these things," because she just thought we were the bomb. So anyway, long story short, that got me into rock and roll. By the time all that kind of went away, I picked up guitar, taught myself guitar, probably taught myself about 6 or 7 instruments now. Piano is the new one. Then, and with that came marketing, because you got to market your wares. Otherwise, nobody knows who you are.
I
So
guess.
with all the sales experience I was having, plus all the marketing, learn as you go marketing. And then as I grew in higher into sales, marketing became part of my job. So by the time I was 22, I had run up 2 corporate ladders, one in the music industry with Guitar Center, and then one in the photography industry, which was where I really wanted to be, was a wildlife photographer back in the day. And I was an area supervisor for like 7 studios. So I was this little snot-nosed 19-year-old kid in charge of 7 portrait studios for like one of the world's most known family portrait studio companies in the world.
Got like leadership through and through in your veins.
When I was 16, I was working for Bastium Tickets, which is now called Ticketmaster, and their headquarters in Concord, California at the time. I was, 15 and a half. I think I still had my learner's permit. It was like 15 and a half, and they made me a team lead because I was just burning through calls, doing all the upgrades that they would teach you, But it's really weird because people are like, oh, you're a natural salesperson. I was like, am I a natural salesperson, or am I just somebody who listens to people and has a knack for gabbing?
Yeah.
Right. And if you can learn how to manage the time it takes you to gab versus what you need to accomplish in the conversation, you are now a salesperson.
Right. Bring someone across the finish line or through the journey, right?
Yeah. So so I was an aspiring musician. I was a working musician still all the way through. So I started gigging. Our first paying gig from Fallout Shelter. It was a 3-piece band. It was a punk band. And we played at the San Francisco State University in front of a sea of prophylactic art. Yeah, long story. And we got paid in Snapple and oversized chocolate chip cookies. That was what we got paid at 16 years old. That was my first gig.
You're like, listen, my grandpa pays me more than this.
Right? And so, but we ended up playing cool places like Berkeley Square and a couple other and that stuff. But all that money always went back into the band, ... So I got to a point where I felt like I was stuck in California. And a lot of people are like, well, California is the place of where dreams are. I was like, well, you're in San Francisco is not known for, it's a great music scene, but it's not known for discovering talent. If you're in Seattle in the time, because this is back in the 90s, guys, I'm old. I'm an old fart.
I don't look like it, but got some gray. It's not up here anymore. Took it off.
And so you're not in LA, you're not in Seattle, you're not going to get, like, it's very, very hard to get discovered. So I joined the service at 22. I was actually old for joining, because usually kids join at 17, 18 years old, right?
Yeah.
And so I was always the old guy moving through everything, which was great because I was also an immature rock star. So that was good that I had a couple of years to burn some stuff off. And then go in there because I was still a hellion regardless. I'm an entrepreneur. I break rules.
You can inform though. I guess Air Force they're a little light on you, right?
Right, exactly. So and then I just naturally created a couple of bands while we were in there, and we recorded a couple albums. We played stuff on the weekends, and when everybody was in town, because all of us were in the military except for our drummer for the longest time. So we would get deployed. So everything would be on hiatus, come home, usually 3 or 4 months, we'd get to gig for a bunch of, and then get going there. So by the time I got out of the service, I had like written off becoming a rock and roll star. And actually that was when I moved to Alaska in 2001. I was 28 years old at the time. And I'm like, yeah, like I'm at 28 and you're not even close to being even regionally recognized. It's not for you. I mean, it's just that's the way it goes. It's a young person's sport, if you will. So anyway, 4 years up there in the service, I married, divorced, got out, and I didn't want to go back to California. There was nothing there. And Alaska is a beautiful state. And I was like, I'm going to start a recording studio, and I'm going to do better than any of the other studios I was ever in, because I always had bad experiences in recording studios because I wasn't a rock star already. Like, they don't treat you well if you're just a nobody paying the bills for them.
Yeah.
That's not enough that you're the one actually paying their bills. You have to be a rock star for them to give you any respect. And I was like, that's just a horrible way of doing business. So I was like, all right, we're going to become a learning studio for working musicians, because I was always a part-time working musician. So that means I had a day job, and then I moonlighted as a rock star, right? In my own head, right? So with all that said, A year later, we grossed $72,000 in gross sales.
Hey.
I paid myself $24,000 of it to live off of, which paid my rent.
Yeah, just about.
My rent for my office was twice as much as the rent for the condo that I was in, because I'd rented out I rented out one of the rooms in my little 2-bedroom condo that was within walking distance from my studio. And they were about the same size. Like I had about 1,200 square feet in my office, and I think I had 1,300 square feet in my apartment. So I lived there for 7 years, and everything went into the business. But after that first year, I was like, surviving off of starving musicians was an absolute horrible business plan. And I had no parachute. I got out. There wasn't any money in the bank. Like my first month, I needed to pay rent in both places. There was nothing. But I built everything. My first employee was a homeless guy that took off the street and helped me out. He was dialing for dollars after he helped me paint all the walls. But yeah, we were scrappy.
I love that. Yeah.
Scrappy. Yeah. And that grew in over 13 years. That grew into a 13,000 square foot facility with 24 employees, multi-million-dollar creative agency that was known both in Alaska and was starting to break into Washington before I decided I was burnt out, because I had grown at all costs, which was the mindset of the mid to late aughts, all the way through the teens. Was grow. It was the .com VC era. It's like you just grow until you just keep growing. If you're not growing, you're dying. Right? And then nobody was talking about profitability. Nobody was talking about work-life balance. Nobody was talking about your soul.
I didn't think of that until everybody's like dropping like flies or burn out.
Exactly. So that's where Buzzworthy was born out of. Was okay. We were serving like 300 companies a year. I mean, we weren't any small potatoes. I basically had come on a scene that was dominated by legacy traditional ad agencies, and I had to drown them out somehow. So we took this SMB space where nobody else wanted it, because there was so much government and oil companies and stuff like that in Alaska, making the big dollars. I was like, well, we'll do the little guys. And so I've always had a soft spot for little guys. I'm not a little guy, technically, 5'7", not a big guy.
Not so much.
I'm an underdog guy. I'm a Bengals fan. I'm an A's fan. I don't know. There's something about that. I'm a San Jose Sharks fan.
All right, I hear you. A little guy. All right. Underdogs.
Kings, go Warriors, all that stuff. So the problem was, though, that when I was reinventing how we were doing business, I had to be a better business person. So to get started, we had to let go of the micro business and really focus on the lower to mid market and get our foundation now. And now what we have is the ability to then offer the DIY now, because we have the resources to do it, right? Instead of like trying to basically climb up the ladder on the people that you're basically peers with, you're instead taking the experience that I've had. I've been a minority owner of a professional indoor football team. I've owned cafes over the years. I've done so much stuff, right? And I've learned so much. So I think at some point you just got to take a look at all the things you learn, and you wonder to yourself, what did I love doing best? And that's when it was like, hey, the people who have done what I've done and they want to take it to the next level, I was like, okay, I want to work with those guys.
Yeah.
Right. Because as much as I love teaching, I want to teach the 300 level course, the 400 level course, the 600 level course. Right. And it's like, we can now record and allow people the 101 and the 201 courses of like, hey, this is how you get started, which is beautiful. I love having that evergreen. It's there. Keep it going. Right. And I don't mind donating my time to chambers of commerces and those and trade shows where you're talking to people who are just have never understood marketing, or they were never taught marketing or anything like that. So to answer the last part of your question, because that's what got me here. Last part of the question is, did I go to school for it? I did. After I was in business for 5 years, the GI Bill, I realized that they were going to pay me to go to school. I was like, okay, so I went to school. But I started with a degree in marketing, and I realized after 2 classes that what they were teaching in the classroom is not what real world marketing was for small businesses. So
is that still what happens nowadays? I can't even imagine. But I mean,
it's because they're teaching enterprise level marketing. They're still
Okay.
teaching the 5 Ps and a lot of old school stuff. Now, there's a lot of new technology stuff, but it's still from the perspective of the enterprise, because that's the people who they bring in to talk, right? When they're training you in college to be a marketer, they're not thinking of the entrepreneur. Now, luckily, I went to a business school at University of Phoenix. So I was actually able to change my degree to a small business management degree with an emphasis in entrepreneurialism. Now, that served me twice.
Yeah.
One, it told me, yeah, nobody's figured this out yet. Yeah, it's all about marketing. But under $1 million, it's all marketing and sales. Like, there's nothing else that's going to get you to $1 million besides marketing and sales. Period.
Yeah.
Of story.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
everybody else,
like the bare bones basics of it is like,
yes,
okay, I have to have a product. I have to sell a product, but if I don't say anything, which is marketing, how am I going to get the product out here? I got to convert.
exactly. And then you got to close it, right? And people don't realize, like, networking, that's marketing. They call it network marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Okay. What you do in your networking is part of your marketing, because the messages that you're telling people are marketing is synonymous with the word magnet. Okay. So if you think about everything that draws people in, that's your marketing. When we talk about advertising, think bullhorn. When we advertise, we blow out our message. When we market, we pull people in with our message. When we sell, we close people with our message.
I like that.
It's the same message. It's just 3 different ways of using it. So if you're under $1 million in revenue, it's all about sales and marketing.
Yeah, pretty much. I love that. Some people are having a little mini revelation right now, because people who listen to this are little small, medium-sized business owners, entrepreneurs. People are like, who do I need to know? Who does Tiffany know? But if you guys really need to know, Buzz is one of the people that my business partner and I hired, because we were like, we can sell, we can do real estate, we can do this, but you want me to tell more people every single day who it is that I am and attract that? I don't know where to start. What do I say? It's the same thing over and over again. He's like, that's the point. Buzz is like, you got to tell people, they forget. And I'm like, I just figured they knew who I was and what I do and what hats that I wear, you know?
Well, yeah, we assume so many things about other people. It's one of the things that, like, when I work with, our core clients are usually between $1 and $10 million when we pick them up. And our goal is to double up their revenue. Okay. So 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, or 10 to 20. It's usually where we're at. And one of the things that a lot of folks, that once we've made $1 million and we figured it out, because I made my $1 million through referral marketing. I was in this group called BNI, Business Network International, for 11 years, 11 of the 13 years. And year 11 is the year that we had our first $1 million year. And I look back and I was like, what was it that actually got us to $1 million? Yeah, we had SEO. We did a lot of social media marketing. We did all that stuff. But what really was the driver was referrals and referral marketing, right? But what wasn't going to get us to 2 million was referral marketing, because you only have so much time, and referral marketing takes time. And so growing is a time exercise, right? Scaling is a money exercise. Money equals speed. Money equals buying back time. And once you get to a certain point in your entrepreneurial experience, and some of you might be past this, years past it. I know I was a few years past it before I finally realized it, is that I want my time back, because it's the commodity that I can't get more of.
Yeah,
always make
absolutely.
more money, but we can't make more time. And I was 13 years in going, wow, I'm rotting my best years of my life trying to build something that will never actually be fulfilling. And that's when I shut it down. It was a multi-million-dollar company. It was just doing fine, but it had cash. It had its problems, just like every company that grows that fast does. Because once we hit $1 million, it only took us 18 months to hit 2 million.
Wow. It's like you figured it out. Boom. Now we rinse and repeat.
It was like
right?
14. We went like 14 or 15 employees to 24 employees in a year.
Yeah.
We went from a 3,500 square foot facility to a 13,000 square foot facility that same year. It was crazy. It was every quarter we were adding more people, but I was growing for growth's sake though. So I tell people, like, do not aspire for that type of growth.
Right.
You want that. Now what I tell people, I was just on the phone with a gentleman who has like 8 books in his head, right? And he wants to scale before he sold anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no.
I love that you're having those chats with people though. Like, you're bringing them back to reality to understand, like, hey, listen, I've invented it, been there, done quite a bit of it. Like, can I just start you from where I think you should be? And hopefully they're open enough to understand.
Well, and that's the thing, is like, I'm to that point now in my career and my business's maturity level is where we say no to people we don't think are going to be a perfect culture fit for us. if I feel like I'm going to have to pull teeth and scratch and wrestle you down to the ground to get you to listen, like, or act. I almost fired a client. Well, technically I fired a client a couple weeks ago who then I gave him a door back in, but it had to come down to like, listen, I can lead you to water, but you got to drink it.
Yeah,
It's like,
for sure.
you got to take the action because, as a marketer, I always tell people there's 1,000 ways to skin the cat. Okay. And it's just a matter of which one do you resonate best with. And it's my job to show you maybe a small handful of ways to doing it so you don't get overwhelmed. But from there, even if we're going through some iterations of that, once you say yes to something, that means you now are taking the baton and running with it. As a micro business, you can't afford good marketers to do it for you.
Right.
There's so many entrepreneurs out there that are like, I'll just hire that out. I'll just outsource it. I'm like, the people you can afford right now to outsource, you will spend just as much time training them on something that you're probably not an expert at.
Yeah, how are
So
you
now
going
you
to
get the
train
blind
them?
leading the blind.
Yeah, kind of, right? If you don't know what
As
you're
it
doing, how are
would
you
for
going
you
to
to just try to figure it out yourself. And so I tell people, it's like, we get down, it's like, my biggest thing is ABM marketing, which is account-based marketing. Right. So if you're and we work with B2B service-based firms. Most people who are small enough, there are a lot of times they want to stay local because it's the easiest place is where I can have the biggest impact is my local market. Right. So I'm right outside of Richmond. Right. We just moved here a year ago. Where do I go? I go to Richmond anytime I see a business networking event just to say hi. We were in Illinois for 4 years. And after I lived in Alaska for 17 years where I didn't have to network anymore, everybody knew me in the entire state.
Yeah,
So
right.
if you didn't know
I know
me,
there's not a lot of population
you were
out
in
there.
business if you didn't know Buzz. That's just the way it was. There are very, very few people in the business, in the small to medium-sized business sector that didn't know Buzz Biz Media, which was our company name back then. But then I went to a small town, and and Anchorage is a city of like 372,000 people. So just think like St. Louis, right? The center of St. Louis, right? That's the size of Anchorage, okay? Then I go to Springfield, Illinois. It's got 102,000 people in it. And then and everybody knows everybody there already. It's all homegrown. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Good old boy system. I go there to network. And these people I always thought we were a couple years behind in Alaska. I go down into the middle of Illinois. God bless this little tiny town. But these people are so anti-new technology. It's all old school thinking. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And then 4 months later, COVID hit too. So I couldn't even do that.
Now you're really trying to get them to convert from like just not only paper and pen to email, but also to like online Zoom.
And I'm like, wow. But I think that as a good entrepreneur, if you're able to pivot with times, I remember in 2008 when the recession hit, the Great Recession, remember that? We had pins. A buddy of mine came up with these pins. I loved it too. He's like, I refuse to participate in a recession. Because if you really break it down, recession is a mindset.
Hey, just like
you have the power you own a business. You don't own a job. If you're in a job, you are at the whim of whatever your boss thinks a recession is. But as an entrepreneur, you have the choice to participate or to decide to work in the opposite direction. Yeah. So do you have a mindset of scarcity or do you have a mindset of abundance?
For sure. I love that so much.
So many. Dude, I was only 3 years into business. I was just happy to still be alive.
I know, right? 18 months.
That's scary shit.
Yeah. It's wildly against you under 2 years to go in business for yourself. It's like 80% don't make it.
Right. Oh, yeah. In 3 years, I think it's like, what is it? 75% don't make it past 3 years?
No. Not at all. IRS doesn't expect you to make it. They expect losses for the first 3 years. You got wild write-offs right then.
Yeah. Oh, and I did. I know I did. I like I said, I didn't have any savings. I didn't have any reserves. And so so there were still the bumps and bruises of the recession, but that didn't stop me from trying to grow. And I think that a lot of people have, one of the biggest lessons of going through a few of these things over the last 20 years, things that will stop you in your tracks. And you think, oh crap, what am I going to do? And it's either survive or thrive. Those who go to survive end up shrinking during bad times. Those who decide to thrive will actually grow exponentially through hard times. Yeah. We grew double-digit growth for 3 years through the Great Recession.
That's
As a
incredible.
tiny little 1,200 square foot facility in Anchorage, Alaska.
It wasn't that little. I mean, just middle of nowhere.
I mean, all we had was the small businesses there. Well, in Anchorage, in Alaska, most of the small businesses are either supporting big oil.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's not so bad if that here, or then the brick and mortar is supporting the tourism industry. So if the lower 48, the contiguous 48 is not moving around because of a recession, what do you think that has to do with the economy of Alaska? The only thing that kept it up was oil, because everything's paid by oil up there.
Right.
Right.
Or
Now,
government, right?
number 2 industry is tourism. Right. So yeah, it was a hit up there, and but anyway, with all that said, I think that if you have the determination and you have the wherewithal of an abundance mindset, you can make it through pretty much anything that the government's going to throw at you or economy's going to throw at you and stuff like that. You just got to be smart about it.
You couldn't have said it better. Tell me why you try so hard. You keep getting back up when you get knocked down through all the struggles. Why is trying so hard continually for these people so important to you?
That's a good question. I think it has, I honestly, it comes back to my vision of having an exponential impact on our economy. And the fact that a guy with an idea and 8 other people who believe in his idea can do that is pretty cool. I mean, that to me is the American dream. Not that I'm rich beyond my wildest dreams or anything like that, but that I have the power to decide my fate and I can empower other people to make that same decision for themselves. That's kind of exciting, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, what? You get to do what for a living? I listen to some people are like, yeah, I'm a diesel mechanic. I'm like, thank God you do that, because I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I mean,
I certainly couldn't wrench for 8 hours a day. But they love doing it. Like everybody finds that thing that they love, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's great. And I think if you do what you love to do, you never work a day in your life. So I think it's not really the ups and downs over the years have gotten easier and easier. I used to get gut wrenched when I lose a client. Now I look at it as a learning experience. What did we do? Did we pick the right client to accept?
Yeah, that's a thought.
Did we do right by the right type of client? Where could we have done better? Was it just time for them to go? Did we choose poorly in hindsight that we would never have been able to see in choosing the right client to begin with?
Right. That makes sense.
All of that's us. We have to take responsibility of who we do business with. And the most powerful word in the English language is no.
No,
every time you say no,
sentence.
What?
No is a complete sentence.
It is. And when you say no to one thing, you are saying yes to an infinite amount of other things that have not come into vision for you yet. And that's why people have a hard time saying the word, because they are afraid of the unknown, because they don't have an abundancy mindset.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're like, I'm saying no to this and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right. Like I had a luxury brand from Paris call me. That was a referral. They said, yeah, you got to talk to Buzz about SEO. It's one of the things we do. And they're talking to me and they're like, yeah, we want to increase our visibility to wholesalers, ... I'm like, okay, B2B, this is great. And then he's like, and we want to increase our visibility to our digital to consumer base, so direct to consumer from digital, right? And I just had to say, time out. We don't do D2C. We're a B2B firm. Could I have taken that? He was buying whatever I was selling.
Yeah.
Right. But I said no to probably a very lucrative freaking client. And I handed it to a firm that is very good at D2C. And the guy's like, well, when we talk about the B2B again, I'll be back. I'm like, no, my buddy Damon's is going to do such a good job that it's not going to make sense for you to come back to me unless you're doing something other than SEO, because that's all he does. Right. I'm okay with that, because now Damon knows that I mean business when I say B.
Right. Not compromising your company's standards for just the next referral or person, but that's honorable. I mean, the fact that you're an expert in what it is you're an expert in and your abundance mindset is one of the reasons why I was like, oh my gosh, you see the vision that we have and how we're going to accomplish it and how that all pieces together. Just one of the amazing qualities of somebody that I want to work with whenever I choose to hire somebody that's going to help our company that's doing amazing things.
Well, we appreciate you.
We can't talk forever. It looks like we really could talk forever. I definitely, at this point, some people are thinking, I love this guy. I want to hear from him. You guys will have all the links below, all the hyperlinks, and you're just going to go friend me. You're going to friend Buzz on LinkedIn. You're going to connect with us. And that way you can go to his URLs, which are, if you want to tell me the two that you want everybody to go visit.
Sure. If you want to check out Rule of 26, www.ruleof26.com. For your listeners, I will send them a free copy of a free signed copy. All they got to do is pay for shipping and handling. Just go to ruleof26.com. And then if you're curious of what a choose your own adventure marketing firm looks like, go to buzzworthy.biz.
Ooh, great. I love your offer. I'm so grateful. They're so grateful for your offer, for that amazing thing that you've just shared. I am so grateful for your time. Before you leave, though, you told me an amazing nugget. And it is just one thing I want you to leave everybody with.
Focus. If there's one thing you can do in your business, focus. And if you forget what focus means, I've made an acronym for you. Focus means fix one clear, urgent struggle.
That's really good. We're taking a moment to chew on that because that's great. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. You have so many different nuggets and tidbits. I know that nobody's going to be disappointed whenever they reach out to at least be connected with you, be friends with you, hire you. It's going to be amazing. Thank you again for your time, for coming on the podcast. You know, I'm a baby podcaster. It's growing into great things. And go have a great day. Thank you, everybody. And I'll see you back on the next episode.
Thanks for having me.